If you didn't realize what you were walking into today, guys, we have a mobility workshop here that we're going to be going through for the next hour. The emphasis today is applying mobility into strength, seeing mobility as the foundation of all the work that you do, all of the training efforts that you put in here. So I'm going to open the floor first and just ask, because sometimes we say these words and they get used like saying core, brace your core, brace your core. People are like, what does that mean? Can anybody tell me what the term mobility means? Being able to move freely without any pain. I'm kind of liking some of the words I'm hearing. Let's keep going with that. Anybody else? Mobility. Range of motion. To be able to move. All right, so you're kind of getting the right answer here. I'm going to read you the textbook definition. That way you guys can kind of get a better sense of what we're talking about. Mobility is active range of motion that your muscles and joints can achieve with strength and control. I think maybe someone said control somewhere at some point. So strength and control are kind of like the key terms there. On the other end, flexibility, right? That term gets thrown out a lot. Does anybody know what flexibility is? Anybody guess this is what we could describe flexibility as? Not like flexibility in your schedule, but like physical flexibility. To stretch without pain, is that what you said? Okay, so stretching, I'll take that as part of the term. Range of motion is still part of it. Yep, so flexibility would be the passive, meaning when something pushes you there, when we use a band to stretch your leg, when we use an arm to stretch the other arm, the passive range of motion that your muscles and joints can achieve with maximal stretching. All right, so there's that term again, stretching. So you can be really, really flexible and have poor mobility. Or on the other end, we can have really good mobility, but maybe not a whole lot of flexibility. So they're not the same thing. And we're going to learn that today as we go through a lot of this stuff. Some other key points and things I want to mention before we dig into this and what we have planned. The first 5 minutes are just me kind of talking. The rest of the 55 is us doing stuff, just so you guys know. Stability, I'm going to just tell you this one. Stability is the ability to control movement in a range. Strength would be the ability to generate force in a stable position. So we can be really strong, but not necessarily mobile. We have to combine strength and control at the same time for mobility. Okay, a good professor once told me this: mobility is what makes flexibility useful. If you're really mobile and you can control your motions, then you can use the flexibility that you have. Why does this matter? Any guesses as to why it matters to have good mobility, guys? Why does it matter to have good mobility? Preventing injury, probably the top pick. Thank you, Jocelyn. And you can kind of see it. My cheat sheet is up here. This is more for me to look at, less for you guys to look at. Poor mobility is going to limit our movement efficiency, right? So if we don't have good mobility, we're not going to be able to move very well. Increases your injury risk. Good mobility, on the other end, allows better force production. So if we're really well at controlling that range of motion, we can produce more strength and force in our movements. So we're starting off with, as you guys usually do in all of your sessions, foam rolling and lacrosse ball use to soft tissue mobilize. We're going to move on from that into active range of motion, using the joints to move through controlled ranges of motion, dynamic stretching and assisted mobility next to kind of combine flexibility and strength at the same time. We're going to use some weights after that to incorporate some strength into the mix, and then we're going to actually stretch it, cool it down, and finish off and make permanent all the changes that we just worked on in the session today. So what I want everybody to do right now, whether you're using it or not, grab a foam roller, the closest one that you have to you, get down onto the ground, and we're going to start. First foam roll of the day. Welcome to hell. I'm just kidding. Okay, guys, calf first. We're going to take the foam roller, put it underneath the lower part of the leg. Between the ankle and the knee is the area that we're searching for here. And I want everybody to try and do one leg at a time. You can start by applying a little bit of pressure down into the foam roller using the strength of your hip and your leg there. You have 3 main angles you can use here: the outside angle of your calf, the center of your calf, and then the inside angle of your calf. Just scan through right now. We're not doing anything super fancy at the moment. Using your arms as well as your other leg to support your body. Now, if you can tolerate it, take your other leg, put it on top, add a little bit more weight on top of that. Use your arms to support your body here. More pressure into the foam roller is going to create more discomfort in the leg. If anything is too uncomfortable, back off. Maybe don't put that leg on top, or maybe just move a little bit slower. But here's the key, and this is what we're going to do in each of the foam rolls today. I'm going to teach you guys. We're going to do what's called pinning and stretching. Take your ankle, pull the toes back toward the nose, and then press onto the gas pedal. Do this anywhere where you find a tender spot. You're going to notice probably from time to time that your foot kind of does this little jerking motion while you do that. That's fine. That's totally normal. All right, switch sides. Now we're focusing on the other one. You can start with just the leg, maybe scan up and down, figure out where most of the tender points are. I can tell you guys that my left leg compared to my right has way more tender points. Say it again.
What does that jerking motion?
That's just the control of your muscle and those tendons as you're releasing into length. Sometimes it's like holding onto a rope and letting it slide through your hands. It slides a little bit more at times. All right, finding tender points, pointing the toes, pulling the ankle back, flexing and extending. Add the weight on if you can tolerate it. Generally speaking, most of you guys up in this top portion of your calf, on the outside and on the inside, are going to have really tender points. If you haven't hit them yet, find them. I'm waiting to see some of those faces. Paula's still trying to figure it out. She's like, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Okay, let's change it up. Take the roller now. We're going to place it underneath one of your quads. So the length of your quad comes from your hip all the way down to your kneecap. Don't roll on top of the bone. Don't go on top of your kneecap. Let's start by scanning. Okay, you're going to do belly facing down, leg out to the side, arms on the ground for support. As we roll all the way up and all the way down the length of your quad, you're paying attention, scanning for anywhere that feels tender. This is a massive group of muscles. Quad is actually short for quadriceps, meaning 4 muscles. And we have an outer edge, an inner edge, and a central point that we want to hit. Slowly scan. When you find a spot that's tender, right, everybody try and find one. Hold it. Pull your ankle all the way to your butt. And then slowly extend your leg back out straight. And this is where most of you guys start to talk, yeah. Okay, so this is called pinning and stretching. We're creating length. When you pull your knee all the way in, you're stretching your quad. While it's under pressure, it creates extra length. While you extend it back out, it's relieving pressure, creating more length on the tissue, allowing you for later on to get better, deeper squats, less pain in the knee when you squat, all these wonderful things. One?
When you find one spot.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Well, so the key point being that you're going to find multiple spots. So if you haven't already turned onto your side, angle yourself so that your chest faces away from the floor. Roll on the outside edge of your quad now. This one's probably going to be more tender. So apologies, because now you're really going through the inferno. Same thing, when you find a tender spot, bend the knee, extend the knee. If you're super duper tight, you might experience a small click at the knee. Be careful there, try to go smoother and slower. It's totally normal to experience it, but it just means that you have a really tight lateral band. Okay, switch sides if you haven't already done so. Starting centrally, so work on the front of that quad muscle first. Scan the length. Up and down. Stop when you find a tender spot, ankle to the butt. And then full extension back out. Yeah. Breathe, breathe, breathe. When you hold your breath, when we breathe in our chest, we're kind of paddling against the current. You know, it's not going to hurt you guys, but it's always best to try and control your breath. Keep your breathing in your belly. Keep it relaxed. I almost picture when we hold our breath, we're creating a dam in our body. We're actually stopping the flow of things. If we continue to breathe through it, we're going to allow that water to pass by. Turn to the side a little bit or chest away from the ground if you haven't already done it. Try the same thing. Huge. So Jen just said this is probably good for cyclists, right? Yes. Anybody who's using constant knee flexion extension? Totally. Good for runners. Good for squatters. We all squat. Yes. So you have the right spot. You can do a couple options, Mary Beth. We can do out to the side. I call that the Spider-Man, right? You kind of look like Spidey. You can do back behind. And then if it's really, really tender, you can actually put it on top of the roller with the other leg. Yeah. But see, here's the thing. So if you don't foam roll regularly, it's going to always feel 10 times more intense when you're doing it. The more you do it, the more regularly you do it, the less intense it's going to get, guys. I promise you. Stay with it. Next up, let me give you a break from that, all right? I'm done torturing you there. Let's switch it up. Let's go on to the butt next. So we're going to roll out the glutes and the piriformis. To do this, lean onto the edge of your hip. We're going to choose one side. I'm on my right side right now. Dead leg, so we can keep it out straight. This is your scanning position. This is where you just want to try and generally figure out where are you tight, where are you tender. Most of you guys should hit tender points almost immediately. We use our glutes in training every single session. It's the main muscle that we're hitting every single day. All right, for more intensity, to get more stretch, to get more length relationship here, create a figure 4, bring the leg that you're rolling up and cross it over the other leg. That's going to pin and stretch the muscle just like the other things that we were doing. And then think about where, if you were wearing a pair of jeans, off to the side of that pocket is where you want to aim. That muscle, small area, we're talking probably about this big, doesn't require a whole lot of movement. Just stay on top of it, try to roll that out, maintain some tension on top, and breathe. Anybody having a hard time finding that? Good, good, good. Y'all are doing it right. And take a little breather. Switch sides. If you haven't already done it, switch to the opposite side. Again, start with what's called the dead leg position, leg out straight. And then when you're ready to, bring that leg up, cross it into a figure 4, keep pinning down that muscle. Breathe through it. Keep on breathing. All right. Take another 5 seconds or so to wrap that up. The next thing we're going to do, this will be for your upper body. We're going to take the roller. You can kind of watch me get set up here. Placing it underneath your lat muscle. So this is, if you look at where your armpit is, this is about 1 hand length beneath your armpit. And we're going to be in a side lying position with our arm in one of 2 positions, either in front of the roller or all the way up overhead. Okay? You can start with the arm down low first and scan. If you lean your body slightly backward and forward again, there should be a moment when you kind of catch that muscle. Your lat muscle spirals from your upper back to your shoulder. And that's the muscle we're trying to pin down. It lives right along the back edge of your rib cage. If you lean too far back, you're going to lose it. So try not to go chest facing the ceiling. Stay mostly side facing. When you find a tender spot, take your arm and try to lift it all the way up overhead and all the way up off of the ground. Yeah, good, good. If you're having difficulty doing that, stay within a range that is accessible to you. You have nothing to lose by adding length and tension onto that muscle, even in a lower position. Anybody having trouble finding the lat?
I feel like I'm struggling a little bit. I don't think I'm on bone or...
Yeah, so if you're catching your shoulder blade, you're too far back.
Okay, so rotate forward.
Lean slightly forward, yeah. And then on the other end, if anybody gets numbness, tingling, pins and needles in their arm, that means that you're compressing a neurovascular bundle. You're not going to hurt yourself, but back off of that. Get out of that spot. On the top of the shoulder, go lower with the roller. Keep your arm in a lower position. Down the body, sorry. So bring that roller, further underneath. That's it. That should loosen you up a little bit more, yeah. And then just slightly lean back, Gigi. That's your lat. Good, switch. If you didn't already switch sides, tackle that other arm. If you're not used to rolling out your lats, it's going to take some time to familiarize yourself with the right angles. And for more intensity, again, other than the pin and stretch technique that we just talked about, use your foot. Lift your body a little bit off of the ground. That's going to angle more pressure down into that roller. You can almost see I'm like levitating through my bottom leg. I'm lifting it off the ground, but that's putting more pressure up into that roller. This muscle restricts overhead motion. If you roll this muscle and create more length, getting to this position is going to feel more accessible to you guys. We're going to do some upper back bending here. If you guys leave your hips on the ground for this and place your hands behind your head, foam roller is going to go underneath your shoulder blades. Try not to go any lower than that. Don't go into your low back. Keep it in that mid upper back region. Again, hands behind the head to support your neck. Take a deep breath in. Keep your hips down on the ground. We're going to back bend and exhale. And then return back up to the top. As you come up, you can inhale again. Big exhale as you lay back and bend over it. Come back up. And we're just going to try that 5 times. I don't generally like to do much more than that because even though you have your hands supporting your head, you can get a little bit of stiffness developing in the neck if you're tightening your shoulders in that position. I don't want anybody to set themselves back like that. Hips on the ground. Reason for that, you're anchoring your low body and you're putting this back bend up into that mid upper back, right? Everybody pause what you're doing right now and just take a look up at me. For obvious reasons here, I think you'll understand. A lot of us have this posture we fall into, right? Teresa's laughing immediately because she knows where I'm going with this. But this is like, for me, this is where I get when I'm just like chilling. Right? So what you're doing with the foam roller right now is putting that underneath those upper back muscles and that spine in your upper back, your T-spine, and allowing a little bit more extension. So that's just going to help you stand up a little bit taller. And that's also going to clear shoulder motion up so that you have a little bit less difficulty doing this. It's a lot harder to raise your arm when your back is rounded versus when you stand up straight. If you don't believe me, try it. How hard is that? All right, now stand up straight and tall. Raise your arms up overhead. How easy is that? Almost like incredibly easy, right? Just goes to show, T-spine extensions are going to help improve overhead mobility. All right. Near you, you should have a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. Look around on the floor, look around on the bench. Whatever is closest to you, let's grab it. And you guys want to take a seat on the bench. There are more of you than we have benches. So if we can, just clear off a little space on the bench. Sit down next to a partner.
Take your shoes off.
Yeah, if you didn't take your shoes off already, that was your first mistake. You guys already kind of know where we're going with this. I already see a couple of you rolling around. Take your time. Try not to do the speed racer. You know, I see this all the time. Look at how fast I can do this. It's not, you're not impressing me. Slow it down. The slower you go, the better it is. And like we were doing the foam roller, there are going to be tender spots there. If you find a tender spot, hold it, apply some pressure, and breathe through it. Generally speaking, the middle of your foot, where the arch of your foot is going to have most of the tender spots. It would do you some good to also search around your heel. We have 2 points on the left and on the right of your heel, respectively, that directly, I wouldn't say correlate, but are associated with like stiffness and pain sometimes at the knee. So if you can release these 2 points down here, you can generally get a little bit more motion, a little bit smoother motion out of your knee, right in that instep. Yeah, so like Jen's pretty much staying like right in the center of that arch. Anybody else finding a spot right there? Yes. Give yourself the opportunity when you're on it, apply a little extra pressure. Sink down into it. If you tack your heel down while you're holding on that spot and you just kind of gently move your foot from side to side, that's just a good way to provide a little stability or like an anchor point. On the other end, if you're a little lower with the ball, you can put the ball of your foot down on the ground and try to anchor down through the top of your foot while you roll the bottom. All right, if you haven't already switched sides, make sure you do that now. Yeah, and keep breathing.
I'm like seeing somebody go.
Well, it's funny. You know, I see so much concentration, and that's good, but don't forget to breathe. Let's change it up again. We're going to find an open wall space next. We're going to take the ball and wedge it between our chest and the wall. Ladies, stay away from the middle of the chest. Try and go more toward the shoulder. You don't want to be really like going all the way into the main part of the pec. You want to be up toward the corner a little bit higher. Yes. So as close as you can get to the shoulder joint. But if you roll onto the arm, you're too far. Turn around. Just like we use the foam roller down against the ground, we're using the wall to support the ball here. Apply pressure forward by leaning against it. Small surface area. You guys are looking for about the size of a $50. It's really not that big. If you're rolling so far into the center of your chest, you're a little bit far away from the point that we're focusing on. Go toward the shoulder. On the other end, again, if you're in your arm and you're actually on the long bone, you're too far. Bring it back. And then let's add in a little pin and stretch. Some of you guys know what the pec stretch looks like. We do a snow angel when we lay down on the ground or on a bench. So on the arm that you're rolling, on the side of the chest that you're rolling, take your arm out straight to the wall. try to move your elbow off of the wall. When you do that, you're stretching your pec. So we're pinning and stretching at the same time. Okay, switch sides. If you feel tender, like tingliness or anything, back off of that spot just a little bit and move it around. Release that spot some. Yeah, so like the lat rolling, if you guys experience the numbness, tingling, and needles, you're not hurting yourself, but obviously it doesn't feel very comfortable. Move off of the spot. Keep your shoulders down away from your ears too. I see a couple of you guys shrugging your shoulders up. Try not to lean that shoulder up into the ear. Keep it down. Okay, next roll. Take the ball, face away from the wall. We're gonna put it up between your shoulder blade and your spine. So you guys back here can see that now. Lean up against the wall. We've got a big area of muscle we can focus on here. Quite honestly, this is probably my favorite one, not only to do, but to watch. Right?
A speed bump.
A speed bump. Okay, yeah. So if you get, and you're gonna experience that not only in the pecs, but in the upper back especially. We have layers of muscle, guys. So you might hit cliff edges. You might feel little bumps and little speed bumps, as John put it. Totally fine, totally normal. Obviously, it's a bit uncomfortable when you go over them, so slow down when you feel that. Allow that breathing to continue, right? Don't do this. And then we're gonna pin and stretch now. So let's say it's on my right side. Take that right arm, or whatever arm you're rolling on that side, punch it out in front of you, grab your elbow, and try to move it across your chest. This should really open up that side that you're pinning down. But don't hold your breath, right? Yeah, breathe.
If you're not feeling it, just keep on moving around.
Yes.
What kind of size should they be rolling through? A couple inches?
Big area to search, big area to scan, but small area to focus on. When you find a spot that's tender, hone in on that spot. When you're off of it, you have a good maybe 6 inches of radius that you can work with. That whole upper mid-back is up for grabs. Cool. If you hadn't already switched, I think we did this, but if you hadn't already switched sides, make sure you do that now. We're going to start to bring this one to a close.
Should you go over your spine or not?
Don't go over your spine. So, I mentioned this earlier, but it applies across the board. In any foam rolling or any lacrosse ball technique, you don't want to be on bone. You don't want to be anywhere where you can feel bones sticking out. Wrist, knee, sternum, shoulder blade, like on top of the blade. Point of the shoulder, spine, right, hip bone. Yeah, those things, they don't do you any good, but they also don't feel good. Okay, let's start to wrap this section up. So what we just did was soft tissue mobilization, guys. We spent quite a bit of time improving your mobility. Come back to the turf. Bring your ball with you. Let's face the TVs for just a quick second before we move on to the next bit. So step one, soft tissue mobilization. We do this at the beginning of a training session. When you use an object like this or a foam roller like this to improve blood flow to the muscle, to improve the elasticity of the muscles, and therefore improve the range of motion of the joint, you're going to allow yourself now better movement efficiency, right? So that's what we're about to do. Better force production. We're about to do that later too. And decreasing the risk of injury. So as Jocelyn had pointed out earlier. Moving into step two, active range of motion. We're going to do what are called CARs, C-A-R-S. Controlled articular rotation. Say it with me. Controlled articular rotation. Say it again. Controlled articular rotations. Great. Let's break that down. Controlled, quality of movement. Articular, joint. Rotations, circles. CARs. First thing we're going to do, if you have, let's say, not so confident balance, be near a bench. If you're otherwise good to stand on one leg, we're going to start accessing single leg stability while we move our ankle on the other side. So now we are performing what are called active ranges of motion, or in other words, CARs. Okay? In a single leg stance, removing one leg from the ground, imagine your toes are pencils. We're going to try and draw the biggest circle possible. Small circle at first, gradually increasing the size as the quality of the movement improves. Don't forget to change directions. If you're going clockwise, let's go counterclockwise. As you should all be feeling by now, the ankle muscles are really starting to kick in. Those guys are controlling all that motion. If you're noticing that your foot is making sharp turns and triangle motions or square motions, slow it down more, smaller circles. Okay, switch sides. If you feel like you need a support, don't forget you can sit on a bench or you can use a wall for this one. But the beautiful part is you're also working your stance leg. The one that you're standing on is also working hard to maintain your stability. So we're firing up both engines. Good, guys. I'm going to reiterate, the ankle is moving, but the toes are guiding the motion. Okay? Next, cars. We're going to focus on the hips. This is probably my favorite one. Come to the turf and make sure that you have a pad because there's 2 parts to this one. Laura knows. Okay? Hands on your hips. We're going to do little hula hoops. Start small. Small circles, using the edges of your hip bones as the pencils, or maybe just thinking of your pelvis overall as the pencil. Gradually increase the size of the circle. In doing so, you can allow your knees to bend, give them some freedom and some flexibility to move. And then change directions, do the opposite direction. We're standing on top of our hips, so we're actually applying force up into the joint. And now as we're rolling around, we're exposing it to more pressure, more angles. This is a good way to soften up the motion in the hip for part 2, coming down to the ground, okay? If you have a pad close by, get down into a all-fours position. And next up, we're going to use our knee like a pencil, and we're going to try and move our hip. You're going to bring your knee toward your chest, bring it out to the side nice and wide, wrap it around, and then tuck it back under and follow through to the start. If you start going clockwise, we're going to try and do a couple reps and then do counterclockwise after that. Your 3 stability points are your hands and the other leg. Use them. Remember that we're trying to control our articular rotation. Say it with me. Control. Articulation. Good. I know it's silly, but it'll stick. Okay, switch sides, guys.
We just do clockwise one direction.
Do clockwise as well as counterclockwise. Make sure that you hit both of those for each side. Try to keep your body still. So if you notice that you're lifting your butt up into the air to get that leg back, keep it down. Stay in a tabletop. Just pretend like we're holding that quadruped or that plank position. Again, change and do clockwise or counterclockwise. Your knee is the pencil, your hip is the engine. Okay? Let's give you guys a break from being down on the ground again. Stand back up. Shoulders next. There's 2 parts to this as well. First part is the shoulder blade or the scapula. I'm going to turn around and kind of show you what it looks like to move that. We have 3 directions we need to go. Up, down, forward, backward, and then we're going to kind of go through a circle or a glide. So let's start with the up, down first. Everybody shrug your ear to your shoulder to your ear, and then push down away from your ear. Touch your feet with your fingers. All the way up, all the way down. All the way up, all the way down. What are you going to eat for dinner tonight? I don't know. Good. Okay, next up, round the shoulders forward. Try to keep some height when you do this though. Round the shoulders forward, pull them backward. Put the jacket on. It's warmer than you thought, take it off. Put it on. Inhale and exhale. As long as you are breathing, let's start there. You're in good shape. Let's not get too caught up in trying to exhale or inhale in a particular spot in this one. Just keep that flow going. Okay, and then finally, we're going to tack it all together now, guys. So bring the shoulders up to the ears first, round them forward, bring them down, and circle back, opening the chest, rounding to the start again. From the side, I'm going to turn. You should look like the shoulder is the pencil moving, but the shoulder blade is the engine. That's what we're using to guide the motion. Okay? Small, slow circles at first. Try to keep your elbows straight. And then try going the opposite direction. If you started rounding forward, now start by opening your chest and tucking down and wrapping around. Good. Shoulders next. So we move the shoulder blade. Now we got to move the actual true shoulder joint. Arms out to the side, fingers like pencils. Start with some small rotations, small circles. Gradually increasing the size, but not the speed. Keep the speed slow. Again, controlled articular rotations. If doing both arms at the same time is not feeling very good, if it feels a little stiff, try just one arm at that time. Gradually increase the size. Be careful here not to shrug that shoulder up. Keep it locked down as you rotate that shoulder joint. Good. On the other hand, what you can try is a swimmer. Without rotating your body, try doing one arm forward at a time. Controlling that motion. If you have pain, stiffness, slow down and make a smaller circle. You're not hurting yourself by doing a smaller motion. You're still moving it. You're still getting the length that you need and the control that you need. And if you haven't done it, go backwards. Do the opposite direction. Thank you. So you're keeping me on track too. Okay? Probably my favorite one of all. I call this one Pandora's box, but it actually works the opposite way. When you do this one, it really opens everything up. It makes everything good. Take your hands, interlock them behind your back, pull your chest open nice and proud, and we're going to do 3 directions with our neck. First one, staying nice and tall, chin to chest. You should feel a stretch in the back of the neck. Second one, chin up. You'll feel a stretch in the front of the throat. Chin down again. Chin up. Chin down. Chin up. Okay, come back to neutral. Look over your left shoulder. Oops, I'm going to mirror you guys. Look over your right shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder. One more time, left shoulder, feel the stretch on the opposite side. Over the other shoulder, feel the stretch on the opposite side. And then lastly, in neutral position again, ear to shoulder. And ear to shoulder, that's okay, yeah. Doing the hands behind the back, keep going guys, ear to shoulder, but doing the hands behind the back keeps your posture honest, keeps you locked in that proud chest position. But if you feel like that's getting a little bit too much for you, just leave your hands by your side, keep the shoulders down. Okay, we're going to combine everything into a circle like we did with the shoulder blades now. So let's do tall posture again. Chin down, roll your head over to the shoulder, wrap around chin to the sky, wrap around ear to shoulder, and then chin to chest. And let's continue for a few rotations in each direction. So if we're going clockwise right now, maybe 3 or 4 rotations, going nice and slow. You're going to hear probably some snap, crackles, pops. That's totally normal. If it's painful though, slow it down. Maybe don't move in as wide of a circle. Okay, opposite direction if you haven't already done it. Pay attention, listen to your body. Feel the length that you're creating. Feel the tension of the muscles controlling the motion. We have 2 in that upper trap. Now that's a normal spot to be feeling stretch, but not pain. So I would slow down and shorten the circle. Maybe don't tilt the head out as much. Maybe just do a smaller. This would be called like the queasy circle, right? Last thing. None of you guys have done this with us before. This is an exercise we used to do in our warm-up routine years ago. It's one of my favorite ones. It's called a back burner. We're going to lay down on the ground, but I want you to watch me first, okay? Belly down. Starting position is going to be hands behind the back, palms facing up. We're going to keep the arms off the ground and slowly arc them up overhead, returning to palms down here, and then flipping back up, palms at the bottom again. Go ahead, lay down. And if you feel like the full arc of motion, let's say, is not feeling very good, cut off the motion where it doesn't feel so good and reverse it back to the starting position. Again, I'm going to guide you guys through that here. Palm facing up toward the ceiling when they're behind your back in the handcuff position. And then slowly start to make a wide arc around, up overhead. Shoulders down away from the ears. Palms are down. Sweeping back around. Keep your arms off of the floor. If you're not already using them, use your upper back muscles to hoist your shoulders off of the ground. Those are the muscles that we're using to control this motion. Yes. Standing up, facing around. I'm going to show you guys again if anybody needs to see. Okay. That's okay. So what you did was able to move that other arm around. Did you feel how it was firing up some of those muscles in your upper back? Good. Good. All right. We're going to bring this section to a close and start working into the next section. So what I want to emphasize here as a teaching point, we were just working on what's called, again, active range of motion, or CARs for the most part here, unlocking quality movement potential from your joints, because we're controlling that motion all the way through. Now we're going to work on some dynamic stretches and some assisted mobility. The goal here is to try and bridge the gap between flexibility and usable strength. The first exercise you guys are going to do is the world's greatest stretch. And a lot of you guys have done this with us before. We take opposite foot and opposite hand down on the ground. We lift our back leg for better, more intensity, more length, or we leave it down for more control if you're feeling a little stiff. Either way, we're going to reach through the pocket, full twist, full rotation through to get that T-spine twist. Reaching out, using your upper back muscles to guide the way back open, and repeating again. If you need a pad, let's say underneath the knee, use one under the knee. If you're feeling a little tight, a little stiff, so which arm? Is it when you pin it or when you reach it? Okay, so as a comparable exercise here, I think we've done these before too. Let's unlock motion in a seated T-spine twist. Take a seat. Do your best here to sit up nice and tall, create some length on the spine. Block your leg on the opposite side, and then you don't necessarily have to lift your arm all the way up, Gigi, but we're gonna try and perform a twist as far back as we can go and return to the start. You're gonna feel yourself using those muscles in your trunk to guide that twist. But that's okay. So keep that shoulder down away from the ear. Yeah, don't use your breath to stabilize here. Keep it down low. That's okay. But that is already a massive amount of twisting that you're getting there. When you've done 5 on each side, guys, you can just sit, stay there, or stand up just to kind of give me a signal that you're done. The next exercise we're going to do is going to involve a dowel or a stretching strap. So if you don't have a dowel close to you, you should have a black stretching strap. Yep, so there's little jingly straps. What we're going to do is a front to back for the shoulders, so in the upper body. I'm going to use a band. I don't generally recommend that you use anything that's this tall. I usually recommend as tall as you are for your wingspan. If we run out of dowels that are that long though, black strap works here. Pay attention because the setup and the muscle tension you create is everything here. If you don't do these two things, you're not going to get good quality movement out of your shoulder. I'm using a band to show you the tension here. If I let it droop and I try to go behind my head, I'm going to get stuck and I'm going to bend my elbows and do everything I can to get it behind my head, which is not going to serve me well. Instead, whether you're using a dowel, a band, or a strap, pull tension. Doesn't matter what object you're using, pull tension into it. Elbows out long, arms out straight. Slowly come up over the head. See if we can get that bar or that band behind all the way down to the low part of the back. Keep the tension and return back overhead. If we're having a hard time doing that, I'm going to teach you guys how to wedge, or at the very least, we can perform a halo. So one arm up, one arm down.
Okay, you can't do either.
Try keeping that left arm down. And let's switch that out for a dowel, Gigi. I wouldn't use a band. That's going to be too much tension on that shoulder. Leave the left arm down, reach that right arm back over the head, and see if we can create a little loop here. You might need to hold it just a little further out to the side with that left arm. There you go. Now I'm going to teach you guys a trick called wedging. All right, we discussed in the last session, best analogy for this. When you go to the beach and you have an umbrella and you stick it into the ground and you kind of do this to get it deeper into the ground, right? It's called wedging. So you're going to do the same trick here. To unlock more shoulder mobility, come up overhead, wedge from side to side, pull tension, and then try to get a stretch on one side at a time. Here's my right arm getting a stretch. Here's my left arm getting a stretch. A little bit of wedging. and then try again. If you can keep the tension in the dowel, if you can keep those shoulders from hiking up into the ears.
I was going to say, take note of your shoulders. If you feel
Yeah.
like you're up here as you're doing it, press them back down.
Next up, go ahead and leave that down. We're going to migrate over to the TRXs next. We're going to work on a Cossack squat. Again, another exercise that you guys have probably seen or done with us before. Let me show you a quick demo real fast. Setting up, we're going to hold on to those straps, wide stance to begin with. We want some tension on the straps to start. Sitting down nice and low and sitting back. So our hips are behind our ankles. Because we're using the TRX, we want to maximize length and strength. As I push out to my right side, I'm loading my foot, my quad, my hip, and I'm stretching my thigh on the opposite end. On the other side, as I switch over, now I'm strengthening, and lengthening. So you guys are going to do 5 each side. Take some straps. We have enough for everybody. And we'll just start to kind of migrate around and work with you guys as you do this. Go nice and slow. You have nothing to lose by going slow. And have everything to gain. If I look at everyone's feet, I should see the loading side. The knee that you bend should be flat on the ground. The lengthening side can either come up, meaning you can lift your toes off of the ground, or you can leave it flat. You actually have both options available to you. Jim's lifting his toes. Jim, tell me, do you feel more stretch or less stretch when you do that?
Yes.
Yes. Great answer. Okay, so the answer is yes, more stretch. When you lift your toes, you get more stretch.
And rotate your, yeah, there you go.
And rotate your heel. Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, Sky, there it is.
There you go.
When you've completed 5 per side, unless you want to do a couple more, look, you guys, you can do a few more if you want, if it feels really good. But after you finish up, let's come back to the turf. Because we've got one, actually, I'm sorry, you know what? We need a wall for the next one. So if you're already close, let's just stay close to the wall. Let's just do that. If you can see me, hopefully you can hear me. Next one up is called an assisted airplane, hip airplane. Positioning looks like this. Hands are going to be on the wall. We step back almost like we're doing a push-up on the wall. We're going to lift one leg out of the equation, hinging onto that leg that we're using. And then from here, we perform small rotations on top of that hip. So I'm turning my chest out, and then I'm turning my chest back in. I'm doing this all with a slightly bent knee, and I'm not changing the position of this leg the whole time. We call it a hip airplane because normally we would do it without a support, and you kind of look like you're an airplane flying when you do it. Starting position, hands up on the wall, step back like you're going to do a push-up. Remove one leg off of the ground. Now on your stance leg, let's hinge. Just like an RDL, partially bend through the knee, push your hip back, and then try a small rotation outward and inward. Dynamic stretching and assisted mobility. So we've got bridging the gap between flexibility and strength. Hopefully you guys were feeling length and strength at the same time. You've probably heard me say that in sessions from time to time. Now we're going to incorporate some resistance into the mix. So we are earning your strength through exceptional mobility and control. Grab the lightest kettlebell or dumbbell that's closest to you. I think, yeah, try to stick with a 15 or less. The kettlebell that's closest should do just fine. We still have another small kettlebell up on that rack over there. Small because we don't need to impress anybody today. We just need to be able to use it for some of the things that we're about to do. All right, I have a kettlebell up here still if anybody needs a 15. Good, all right, great. Actually, Matt. Yeah, for Darcy. I'll keep this one. All right, first thing we're gonna do, goblet squat.
Give that one to Darcy.
No, it's fine, seriously. It doesn't make that much of a difference. All right, goblet squat. Safely clean the kettlebell up. Let's go, if you know that your stance is normally shoulder width or so, let's take it maybe 1 inch wider. These screens are about to go black in a second. Would you mind getting that? Slowly descend into the lowest squat we can get while we maintain tension in our hips and while we keep our posture upright. Go ahead and stand back up slowly. As you come down through the next rep, we're going to try and tighten up that pelvic floor, squeeze through your buns, block yourself from going duty. I was waiting for some kind of reaction.
That was so much nicer than that.
right?
Your butthole doesn't feel loose.
Yeah, so Matt says it like that. I will say, let's brace the pelvic floor, okay? We're gonna try and go through roughly 10 reps here. Each rep, you're trying to create more tension in the muscle, getting lower and lower into your squat, and as you push away, we're driving the legs back into the ground, standing up tall. At this point, we've unlocked mobility in virtually every area of our body. So sinking lower into the squat, you should feel your chest staying a little bit more upright than usual. You should feel the ability of your ankles, your knees, and your hips to bend to a large extent. I'll tell you guys, this is a breakthrough for me today. I haven't bent my knee that much in 2 weeks. Yeah. It's a huge win. When you're finished with that 10th rep, put your weight down. We have to set up. I want to show you how to do it first. We're going to set up to be in a single kneeling position next, and we're going to perform what's called a bottoms up kettlebell press. All right, so if you're still squatting, finish your last rep, come down onto a single knee. If you need a pad, put it underneath. Take that kettlebell, we're gonna do butt facing up, hand out blocking the money maker because you guys don't wanna hurt yourself. And we're gonna try to press that bell straight up with a tight wrist, tight fist, without letting the bell wobble, shake, or fall. Return it back down right to the side of the cheek there. Hand can go up to protect your face. Let's try a series of 5 reps per side with exceptional control. Again, earn your strength through exceptional mobility and control.
Here, use Nick's. Use Nick's actually. Yeah. I like to use better than
Yeah, much better.
I guess I could have done that.
That would, Teresa, that would work just fine. Okay, breathing's important, right? Whatever you're doing, I don't care which way you're breathing, in or out at a certain direction, don't breathe in your chest. Whatever you do, don't breathe here, breathe here. Okay, so there's two main ways you guys can breathe here. When we have an overhead press, stability can come from that upper body by maintaining pressure in your chest as you push up. So what that means is take a deep breath in at the bottom, brace your core, small exhale as you press up, and then you can continue to do a small exhale as you come down, or you can inhale, right? If you've exhausted your breath, you can inhale on the way back down. I'll reiterate that. Small exhale on the way up, a little bit of an inhale or an exhale for that matter on the way down. Keep the breath out of your chest. Keep it in your belly. If you haven't already, switch sides. This is probably the biggest demonstration of strength and length and stability, control, that you guys did the entire day. Last exercise we're gonna do, this is all we're gonna have time for here before we stretch it down and finish it off. Leave your kettlebell down, stand up. If you know that your balance, again, is not great, position yourself near a wall or grab your dowel. We're gonna perform some single leg hinges. Again, ideally no support here, but performing a single leg RDL by pushing the hips back and returning up by pushing the leg into the ground to stand. Arms can be out to the side for stability and control if you need it. Let's try a series of 5 reps per side. Small bend in the knee as you guys hinge. If you want to incorporate weight, what the heck did I do with my weight? All right, let's say this is my kettlebell. If you wanted to use weight, hold it on the side opposite to the leg that you're standing on. That doesn't mean that if you hold it on the same side that it's necessarily bad. It's just going to offset your balance a lot. So we start by counterbalancing first. Good. Wake up those toes, wake up those feet. If you haven't already been using them, dig your foot into the ground. Try to create an arch in your foot, a visible arch by lifting that up. You'd be shocked at how much more control you get when you flex that foot. All right, let's do 10 seconds to finish this up. It doesn't matter if you didn't complete all 5. It's really not a huge deal. Just wanted to see if we could demonstrate some single leg stability and control. And then we're going to start to bring it to a close here, guys, and start stretching. So the first position we're going to get into for cooling down and static stretching next, making sure that we internalize all the efforts that we just worked for. We're going to get into a supine pigeon first. Lay on your back, cross your leg over the other leg, and pull toward the chest. As with all stretches, honestly, with all exercises, we don't want to be holding our breath. But particularly here, down-regulate. Try to take deeper inhales, longer exhales. Keep the air out of your chest. Relax your head onto the ground. If you have a pad nearby and you want to stick that under your head, that works fine too. Never hurts to support that head. This is a good question. I'm going to ask you guys. Does anybody know the magic number? How long should you hold a stretch for? 45 seconds. You guys. Guys. We're 2 for 2, but Darcy heard it earlier. So yes, literature shows us that any less than 45 seconds, and we don't really get any permanent effects of stretching. We just simply feel good for 30 seconds. But if we stretch on the opposite side of the spectrum, so is it necessarily dangerous, I'm asking the whole group here, to stretch too long? Does anybody know? Why?
I don't know, but the woman in the last session had
Okay, maybe an okay thought. Any other thoughts? Is it okay to stretch too long?
Sure.
It gets too loose. So we have some mixed thoughts here. I'm going to tell you guys, generally speaking, it's not necessarily bad to stretch too long, but at some point past a minute, we don't really get any more effect out of it. So you're kind of just wasting time. I hate to say it that way, but you're kind of wasting time. On the other end too, if you stretch too hard, right in the face, too far, you can actually hurt yourself. But it takes a lot to get to that point. It really does. You have to be having someone cram your back down and really forcing you into that position. And you'll know right off the bat, you'll get signals from your body that it doesn't feel good and probably back out before that even occurs. Next stretch. We're going to try and do best bang for our buck. If you have a knee pad or something that you can kneel down on, let's get set up in a single kneel position. We're going to stretch our hip flexor combo stretch with a QL and lat stretch. So the setup for this is single kneel down, tucking through the pelvis, tucking through that tailbone to create a stretch on your thigh. Take the same side that you're kneeling down on, lift that arm. Good, okay. Side bend without rounding or leaning forward. Try to stay parallel to a mirror if you are looking into a mirror or the person in front of you.
And incorporate your breathing.
Yeah, seriously, don't go right in the face here. Don't clench your jaw here. Relax. Allow your neck and your head to turn. After about 45 seconds, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. And then, guys, that's going to bring us to an end. I'm going to have my next group coming in any minute. I don't want to rush you out of here, but as they come in, I'll be getting started relatively soon. In conclusion, continue to stretch here. But in conclusion, what you're doing right now, again, makes all of the efforts that you just put in more permanent. You're getting more permanent length on the tissue. I want to get just any one of you, shout out, give me one takeaway, one valuable thing that you learned today, one thing that you're going to maybe apply into the next training session. Let's go. Okay, so the lacrosse ball on the foot, that's huge. Slower movement, quality, slow control. Yeah, the assisted hip airplane, beautiful. We have a protocol in our app for that. Wonderful. Guys, there's coffee out in the lobby. There are very quick, just a 1-minute questionnaire that we want you to fill out that just basically says hey, what was your biggest takeaway? Did you enjoy this? See you next time kind of thing.